The views and opinions in Scenes from the Attic are not necessarily those of Public Broadcasting of Northwest Pennsylvania, its staff, or management.
It's the war that never ends. Man's timeless dance with fire has always been a schizophrenic affair. Without it, there would have been no civilization. The existence of fire is a linchpin in the survival history of the species of man. And we've been fighting to put it out ever since. An out-of-control fire hasn't changed its MO since prehistoric times. From the cave to the skyscraper, fire has required only oxygen, carbon, and energy to launch its assault. We are another story. Man has always studied fire, probing for weakness with caution and a deadly respect. And in so doing, we have created a fraternity of warriors whose bonds with each other have stretched through time.
I came up in 48, and Carl here was a year behind me.
49 it was, I believe.
And I can remember him that first year. He was definitely a bit wet behind the ears coming up.
Well, I was a rookie, so...
Yeah, you know, and that's a hell of a thing to be, a rookie. You know, you have some catching up to do, and we don't make it easy on them.
You take your rookies, or shiners, as we used to call them. They always get the short end of the totem pole.
Shiner, what's a shiner?
What we used to call your rookies.
No, we didn't. No one ever called a rookie a shiner.
We didn't?
No, a shiner's a black guy.
Well, I know that. But I thought rookies were shiners, too. On account of they're always having to shine things up. I mean, the equipment and whatnot.
No.
No, huh?
Well, maybe you called them shiners, but no one else did.
Huh. I wonder where I got that from.
Well, you know, it might have been because rookies were always, you know, shining things up.
The equipment and whatnot.
Yeah, that's right.
You find that you miss it?
Oh, Lord, yeah.
Hell yeah.
If there's one thing you miss the most, it's the camaraderie.
That's it. What John just said, that's it.
I mean, you develop bonds with your fellow firemen that are as strong as any that exist on Earth. You become family.
Or brothers.
And here's my own theory on that. It has something to do with the fireman's way of life. You're either fighting fires or you're waiting to fight fires. And you wait a lot, but in both these instances, you learn to depend on one another for everything. You know, it didn't matter if it was pulling your weight around the firehouse or manning a hose in a barn fire. You knew that your partners had your back and would do the right thing.
That was especially true in Pinnacle.
Well, now, the brass, that was a different matter.
We've seen a lot of good ones and some not so good ones over the years.
Well, Matson, I mean, he was one of the best.
Wilczewski, too.
Yeah, Wilczewski. How about Ramsey?
Oh, Lord. Don't even get me started about Ramsey. That one.
See, fighting fires is like a science up to a point. There are very certain rules of engagement that work and keep everyone safe, unless they don't. That's the trouble, see? I mean, every fire is different, and you have to be able to adapt those rules to a lot of different situations. You got to trust your gut, too. I mean, the good ones were able to do that, and the bad ones, well, you know, they just didn't know how.
Chippewas, we used to call them.
I don't think we did, Carl.
No?
No, a Chippewa, that's a tribe of Indian.
Huh.
Anyway, Ramsey.
Oh, piece of work, that one. I'll never forget the one time. East Side Foundry fire. And Ramsey, he wants somebody to go up, put a hole in the roof on the south end. But any fool could see that the smoke was running the wrong way, and that there wasn't enough of it. But Ramsey, he was bullheaded. Well, sure enough, I'm the one who goes up there. And sure enough, that damn roof collapsed right underneath me. I almost died that time, that's for sure.
You did die that time, Carl.
At the foundry fire?
The East Side Foundry fire. Yeah, 1958.
Huh. That Ramsey, I'll tell you. He was just a big, dumb Indian.
Would you change the way things turned out?
Change anything? No. But truth be told, I can't imagine anything that I could have done that would have been more worthy. Here's the thing. The older that you get, the more that you understand that very little in life is black or white. Almost everything's gray. And good and evil. And you learn to live with that and do the best that you can. Even after death, there's a certain lack of resolution, as either Carl or I can attest. But there's nothing gray about fire. An out-of-control fire is flat-out evil. And that much is certain, and it has to be stopped. I mean, that's our job, to fight fire. And being a fireman, that just doesn't go away. I tell you, I wouldn't have traded places with the president of General Electric. Not in a million years.
We wrestling up some grub soon, John?
I'll be right there, Carl. He keeps forgetting that he's dead. Kind of sweet.
Well, this is nice.
Yeah. Quiet.
You want to play some rummy?
In a bit.
All right. But this ain't gonna last. I can feel it. See, I told you.
Yeah, you're right, Carl.
Shouldn't we suit up?
Nah. It's just a trash can fire.
You sure?
Yeah. Let's sit this one out, okay? The shiners, they'll handle it.
All right, John. We'll let the shiners handle it this time.
It seems at times that the human race is on a journey not unlike a snowball rolling downhill and heading metaphorically to a place where it won't stand much of a chance. A man standing on the cusp of the 20th century lived in an environment that more closely resembled the 1300s than it does now, only 100 years later. We move so fast, the ground beneath our culture seems to be morphing and reforming itself in arbitrary 10-year periods. We look back in wonder and disbelief at the world 20 years ago as if it was ancient Mesopotamia. But if we look back at a frozen moment of time from these museums of the recently past, it pays to look closely at the people living in them, wearing their bizarre fashions and standing amid their quaint and mysterious artifacts. What we see is timeless, vital, and unchanged. What we see is human nature, barely contained and on proud display. It's easy, standing in our sleek world of tomorrow, to forget that, but they are us, and we are them.
I need your keys, baby.
Why, baby? Why you need my keys?
Well, it's complicated.
Oh, no.
Let's just say that I am currently embarked in an endeavor in which your apartment has taken on a decided and prominent role.
No. No way.
You know, setting aside the topic of the moment, I'm chagrined by the implications of your response. This disturbing lack of trust is... Oh, hey, Hazel! Nah, I'm not staying. I just came in to talk to... Okay, I'll have a glass of water. Okay, I'll have a Coke then. Yeah, I got money. I got money, Hazel. I have done nothing to you, baby. Nothing that warrants that implication. You don't know me well enough to not trust me like that.
So, I should give you my keys because I don't know you well enough. Is that what you're saying?
Okay. I met this dude.
Oh, no. Now you see right there.
No, baby.
No. I can't think of one good thing that's happened that started with, I met this dude.
It's not what you think. This dude, he's a man of spiritual dimensions, of deep and spiritual religiosity. I just met him, and I gotta tell you, I was blown away. He has the gift, baby. The gift of knowing. Of transcendental, whew.
You were at the Crazy Horse.
Yeah, and we started rapping, and there's just this presence there. I mean, most of the dudes you meet at the horse, well, as you know, it ain't exactly the Algonquin round table or nothing like that. But this dude, he's got an aura.
Uh-huh.
He's been to India, baby.
Oh, crap. Drugs?
No. Well, yes, but not like that. Not like you're thinking.
Yeah.
This isn't about partying, man. This is a spiritual quest kind of a deal.
Yeah, you know what? No, forget it.
We're gonna meditate. We're gonna smoke a little reefer and then meditate. He's gonna show me the path
Let
to
me
enlightenment.
tell you what he's going to show you the path to. He's going to show you the path to getting me kicked out of my apartment, which I can't deal with again. Because I guarantee you, if I give you my keys, something's going to go missing or get broken, or there's going to be a fight with the cops, or I'm going to get ripped off somehow. Forget about it.
You know, it's interesting how you see someone else's enthusiasm as the beginning of your own heartbreak.
Yeah. Well, welcome to my world.
This is a opportunity for me, baby.
No.
I'm going to tell you something about yourself, okay? So listen up. It's something I learned about human nature, and I think it might help you out some. When you got something inside of you, something unresolved that's eating you up, like a little pile of dirt that you don't know what to do with. And if you put it aside and figure if you ignore it, it'll go away. It won't. You end up playing it out like subconsciously over and over again, using whatever situation you happen to be in. And the people around you become like actors in some twisted play they don't even know they're in. You're gonna be my drunken stepdaddy. Or you're gonna be that bitch that walked out on me. No, not you, Hazel. I was talking. I know. I'm sorry. You think I'm somebody else. That's the way you treat me, like I'm somebody else. One of your husbands, your daddy, I don't know. But you're setting me up, baby. To be somebody that's gonna hurt you bad. Again. But what you don't realize is that I'm not gonna be that guy. I am Leon, the king of French Street. And I think you're something, baby. I just wish you understood that as well as I do. But that ain't gonna happen until you get that there's nobody else here now. No daddy, no boyfriends, no ghost, nothing. There's just you and me. And this dude I just met. I need your keys, baby.
The dreams of a small town are tangled up in its history. What has come before us has always been important, but a small town's past is burned into its soul in a profound way. It shapes the present deeply and passionately and haunts the future. Maybe that's because the past is so close by, in the drugstores and taverns, and especially in the houses next door. History is in the air you breathe. It happened on the ground beneath your feet. In a small town, you can feel the breezes of the ghosts as they pass by.
I'd like to thank Supervisor Jenkins for that quite thorough report. He has served as this body's sewage liaison for nearly a decade, and we're lucky to have him. We'll now open up this meeting to citizens' comments. I'd like to remind everyone to honor the 3-minute speaking limit as a courtesy to others.
Let me begin by expressing my appreciation to this august body for allowing me to voice my comments. This is truly democracy in action as our founding fathers intended. Good evening, Madam Supervisor and fellow distinguished supervisors. My name is Vernon Veerhoven, and I am
Vernon?
I am a lifelong resident of this town, save for a stint at Allegheny College, where I obtained my Bachelor of Science degree in metallurgy in the late 1940s. For the last 47 years, we have resided at 369 Steam Alley on this town's east side. When I say we, of course, I'm speaking of ghosts, both alive and dead. Our children, Russ and Irene Rose, are grown now with families of their own in far-flung places. Irene Rose is a cost analyst for the Banana Republic folks and resides in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And our Russ sells Toyotas to the citizens of the Pacific Northwest, married 14 years now to a woman whose ties to her own parents in Portland, quite frankly, border on the pathological. My wife, Helen, the love of my life, died of cancer 4 years ago this month. But I digress. I am here tonight, once again, to petition this body to enforce its statutes by intervening for the removal of the rusted refrigerator on the front porch of 371 Steam Alley, where it has sat for 2.5 years. The current landlord and owner...
Vernon, we have been over this time and time again. The solicitor says this is not an enforceable matter. The owner keeps it chained and locked.
Which are themselves rusting, by the way.
Nevertheless, it poses no safety hazard. Our hands are tied, Vernon.
Well, as you say, nevertheless, it occurred to me that some history may move you to ponder anew. I will attempt to be brief and limit my comments to the ascribed time limit. And I would ask only that you take into consideration the comments you have already added to this appeal, and the fact that I am the only citizen present at this meeting. For those reasons, Madam Supervisor, may I induce you to a fresh 3 minutes?
All right, Vernon, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. You are most gracious. 371 Steam Alley rests directly across the street from the Veerhoven home, and always has. For most of its existence, it was the home of Chet and Vivian Roboleski and their daughter Karen. Chet was a railroad man. Vivian was a day waitress at the country club. It was unusual in those days to have both parents working, but for the Roboleskis, it was a necessity. Their daughter Karen had polio and was confined to an iron lung for some time. It's hard to believe that in this age of accelerated technologies that iron lungs were still in use in the 1950s, but such was the case. The medical bills were, of course, prohibitive, and hence the dual careers. And unfortunately, despite stellar care, Karen Roboleski died in 1958. Helen and I were very fond of that family. After the death of their daughter, of course, they were devastated. But I always had the sense that in some way it must have been a relief. She suffered so. Chet and Vivian began coming over on Saturday nights for martinis and bridge, more the former than the latter, as I recall. These were good times. But I digress. Chet died 6 years ago, and shortly afterwards, Vivian moved to Redondo Beach to be closer to her remaining family. Since the sale of their house, 371 Steam Alley has been owned by an Erie attorney, a Lawrence Bellotta Esquire, who has successfully obtained a variance to subdivide the Roboleski home into 4 apartments. I've never spoken to Attorney Bellotta, and he has never returned any of my long-distance phone calls. The various tenants and the nefarious goings-on are well documented, and police reports and my own notarized correspondences to the town's authorities. I will not speak here tonight about the heartbreaking deterioration of our neighborhood where we have lived our lives, or of the filth, the discarded fast food wrappers, the soiled disposable diapers tossed into the street, or even of a gentleman who, on a brilliant Saturday afternoon in May of this year, urinated on the side of my house. My topic here tonight is not of the brain death of American culture or of the economic genocide of the middle class. Such things now only make me morose and, quite frankly, impatient of death. There are nights that I lie awake, unable to sleep, because of the vibrations from a stereo system across the street so overpowering that it causes the knickknacks on my bed table to wobble. I toss and turn, which irritates our arthritic schnauzer Fred to no end. He's almost 14 now, our Fred, and more ornery than ever. Helen used to say that...
Mr. Veerhoven.
But I digress.
This is important, Madam Supervisor. This is important. What you do about this matters. A discarded appliance on Steam Alley is as relevant as a plowed street or a pornographic movie house on Main Street. It sets forth the idea that common decency and courtesy towards others is not important, and that civility is an outsourced American ideal. On the island of Bali for the last 1,000 years, the natives have performed a ceremony...
Burden your time.
On Bali, the indigenous tribes have performed a ceremony...
Vernon, you have run out of time. We can't tie up this meeting with tales about Bali or whatnot. Now, we have been over this. We have invested township funds by having the solicitor research our options, and his recommendation is unequivocal. There's nothing to be done here.
Well, if a lawyer said it, then it must be true.
Why do you persist in doing this, Vernon? What do you want?
What do I want? Well, now, I suppose I'm of an age to not expect much of anything. Still, it's an intriguing question. I want to live out my days as productively and as happy as possible. I want somebody to develop an herbicide to rid my backyard of chinch bugs. My children. I want my children to visit me. I want Norman Mailer to publish one more great novel before either he or I die. I want Nichols and May to get back together. I want the town that we've raised our families to be more than just a Walmart surrounded by trailer parks. I want the divine being to illuminate the world's major religions and drag them kicking and screaming out of the Paleolithic age. It would be wonderful if people treated each other respectfully and acted as though they wanted other people to think well of them. I want to know what happened to the America that I loved. I want to know, where did its goodness go? Most of all, I suppose, I would like to visit Gettysburg one more time with my wife in August and stay at the Gettysburg Marriott, room 412. I want to lie next to her in bed at night and just talk quietly about the valor of patriots and how children used to vibrate with promise, while outside the fragrance of dogwood fills the air. Barring that, I want the rusted refrigerator removed from the front porch of 371 Steam Alley. Thank you.
The history of civilization is a madcap affair, a crazy mix of folly and genius. Our missteps are easy to understand. You only need to turn on the television or drive down the interstate to know that we are a species prone to mischief and error. But how do the great ideas happen? And in the primordial muck of human foolishness, how does a great idea survive? It would have to start small and alone, like all life, it would have to start with a dream and a dreamer.
A plastic bicycle.
No, it's not a bicycle. It uses 3 wheels, low to the ground. See?
And, the whole thing is going to be plastic.
It's the blow molding, Fred. We can do this now with the blow molding.
Well, it's going to be loud.
I hope so. So the dynamic will be enhanced by the proportion in front.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. I mean, that's a big wheel.
But life can't survive without nourishment, and a dream can't stay a dream forever. For a great idea to take hold, it needs early disciples, true believers who champion the cause when the rest of the world isn't inclined to listen.
It's really, really neat. It's red and it's yellow and it's got... No, it's not a bicycle, Mom. It's a big wheel. Huh? Well, yeah, it's got wheels. Yeah, it's got pedals, but it's not a bicycle, Mom. It's a... Well, what's that stuff that our new dishes are made out of? Yeah, it's plastic. Mom, it's not a plastic bicycle. I mean, it's got 3 wheels, and it's really loud. I mean, John let me ride his, and it... Yes, we stayed on the driveway, and it's fast, and it's loud, and it skids. Mom, it's supposed to skid. Yes. No. Why? Mom, it's not dangerous. I mean, John has one, and his mom said... Why? Mom, why?
What is it in human nature that causes us to both pursue and resist innovation? We can't seem to stop striving for finding ways to make things better. And yet, there's always a yang to this yin. It's our skeptics. And there's a reason why the phrase healthy skepticism is a cliche. Our skeptics are the antibodies of the human race's immune system, rushing wherever the balance is threatened. They attack stupidity and foolhardiness, mocking it into submission before somebody gets killed, or worse, makes a fool of themselves. The trouble is, nothing can stay the same and change. And there are times when the skeptic needs to sit down and be still.
A plastic bicycle?
No, it's not a bicycle. It has 3 wheels, but he says it's not a tricycle either.
What's it called?
I can't recall. It's red and yellow or something.
A yellow plastic bicycle? He already has a bicycle.
It's not a bicycle. All the boys are getting them. John's mother says it's just that...
I don't care what John's mother says. That woman's a lunatic and a Presbyterian. And don't talk to me about what all the other boys are getting. I suppose if they were all getting a pet rock, he'd want one of those too. And how much does this thing cost?
It's $19.95. It would be for Christmas. Why? Why do you always do that?
Do what?
You look in your wallet whenever I mention how much something's going to cost. We're not buying it now, Bert. It's for Christmas.
I don't always do that.
Yes, you do. If I told you we needed a new oven or that some new house cost $15,000, you'd still look in your wallet to see if you had enough.
I don't always do that.
You do always do that.
I am not buying him a plastic bicycle.
What happens to a dream when it dies? Perhaps it doesn't die at all. How can it, when it was only a dream to begin with? Maybe it's just energy, which, as we all know from high school physics, can neither be created nor destroyed. If that's true, and it better be, or we all should have flunked physics, then there's hope for a failed dream. In the end, it's indestructible and eternal energy, just biding its time.
What are you doing on eBay?
Nothing, you know, surfing.
Is that a big wheel?
No, it's not a big wheel. It's the big wheel from the first production run in 1967. It's a classic.
Huh. Are you bidding on this?
That's me there.
Your wheel boy 56?
My father never wanted me to have one. You know, he said a plastic bicycle, and that's what he used to call it, a plastic bicycle, was a stupid idea. You know, my father was...
I know. Well, I think it's great. I just don't want you crossing the street with it.
It looked good behind the bar downstairs.
Oh, maybe we could put my chatty Cathy on it.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Damn.
Ouch. Looks like Marksman 103's daddy didn't want him to have one either.
I mean, that's a significant investment. I can't...
Sure you can.
Yeah?
Every boy should have a big wheel.
I don't know. I mean...
You always do that.
Do what?
Never mind. You better make your move, wheel boy. Time's running out.
All right, then.
Somebody smart once said that history is what we remember. That's smart because it means that at the end of the day, and at the end of time, all the great ideas have prevailed. After all, what we remember is all that's left. And what's left is, by definition, a great idea.
Good Lord!
It was found yesterday at the old lake site.
That's remarkably preserved.
Isn't it? There was nothing else there. Just this, completely intact. Theories?
A hunting tool of some kind, or a transportation device.
A plastic transportation device? I think not. Look at these colors, though. They were a bold race.
You know, in relation to the two rear wheels...
Yes, you're right. This is a
Big wheel.
There's something about trains. Maybe it's because they're the last remaining link to a time when America was stretching itself westward, defining its borders and its identity by essentially traveling to find them. But trains are also about connections. The tracks connect end to end. The lines connect to form an iron web across the country. And the train trip is singular and oddly mysterious for its travelers. They're not isolated and encased in metal, hurtling across the interstates, or rushed and supersonic, hurtling through the skies. Train travelers are in each other's lives, just long enough to acknowledge and connect before the switch gets pulled, sending them away from one another on separate tracks.
I don't understand why trains can't run on time. There's point A, there's point B. There's an engineer and a gas pedal and no traffic lights, Everyone else has to stop to let them go by. I mean, it's the same route every day. What's the problem here?
It'll get here eventually, I suppose.
Do you think? It's delayed. I just went inside and asked. He said the train's delayed. It'll be another 30 minutes. I had a dog once who got a soup bone wedged in his mouth. Not his throat, his mouth. It was small and round and hollowed out in the middle. The bone, that is, not the dog. The dog's name was Exley. He's the best. Anyway, Exley had been working this thing for a while, and he managed to gnaw out a portion of it so that it resembled the letter C. And I don't know, he just kept bringing it to me and carrying it with him and wanting to play, or so I thought.
You're not clinically insane, are you?
No.
I don't mind. It would just be nice to know.
No. Now let me finish telling you about Exley. So I took him for a walk the next day, and I noticed that he's still carrying this damn bone around, like all of a sudden he's in love with it or something. And then I realized what must have happened. He must have been gnawing at it, and it slipped over his front teeth and under his jaw thingy. What's this part of the dog called? Jawbone? Undersnout?
Actually, I think it is jaw thingy.
Oh, very good. So anyway, I realized what happened, and I panicked, and I rushed him to the vet, who just snipped it right in half with one of those...
Snipper thingies.
Exactly. But what made me laugh about it later was how unperturbed Exley was about the whole thing. I mean, he must have been sleeping with this dog and this bone in his mouth, and he didn't really seem to mind. I guess having instant access to a soup bone, the dog could have worse predicaments.
That's a wonderful story. Why did you tell it to me?
Because I'm bored. Now it's your turn, but here are the rules.
Rules? We have rules?
Now, come on. You tell me a story, and I'll tell you a story. But it can't be information like, my name is Helen Markelson, and I have 3 kids, and I'm going to visit my sick Aunt Eleanor in Chicago, who just broke her hip, blah, blah, blah. It has to be about something that happened, or an opinion, or a philosophy, or something interesting.
What if my name isn't Helen Markelson?
Come on, your turn.
All right. But can we go inside? I'm cold. It doesn't have to be a story, right? You said an opinion or philosophy is allowed.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I think I believe in... No, wait. I have a story. All right. All my life, for reasons I will never understand, I have been terrified of frogs. I mean, literally petrified, paralyzed with fear by the mere proximity to one. I once passed out at a school picnic when I saw a frog jump into a pond. But that's not my story. My story is this. I had a very brief, disastrous marriage to a Navy boy. I wasn't much more than a child. We met, and 3 weeks later, we were hitched.
Excuse me, but seriously? I have no idea where you're going with this. Good job.
So, he was based stateside. He'd go off on some boat for 5 days, be home for 2, like clockwork. Things went sour very quickly. He was a mean boy. He'd come back home, he'd drink, we'd fight, he'd hit, like clockwork. After 6 months of this, I'd had enough and ran away while he was off on his little boat. I went to a different city because I was terrified he'd come after me and kill me. I got a lawyer and filed for divorce long distance. When the papers came back, I looked at what he'd put down for his occupation. It was frogman.
He was a mutant?
It's the term they use for...
Underwater divers. I know. It was my turn to make a joke. Are you still afraid of frogs?
Just the two-legged ones.
What were you going to tell me?
Excuse me?
Well, you started to say, I think I believe in...
I was going to say I think I believe in reincarnation.
Really? How exotic.
Well, I don't know. Obviously, but isn't it a scientific fact that energy can't be created or destroyed? Isn't life energy?
You know, when I first started talking to you, I assumed you were a square, but you're not.
I have no idea if that's a compliment or an insult, but thank you.
All right, I go. Wait, do you feel that? The vibration, that's our train. Can it be a confession?
Oh boy, I don't know. That's your game.
Okay, confessions are allowed.
Oh boy.
I love James Michener.
You mean James Michener, the novelist?
No, James Michener, the Colligan man. I mean, I know he's supposed to be pedestrian, but Hawaii, it's really quite perceptive and bold. It has a lot to say about prejudice and class and American values. I mean, as much really as Gatsby or On the Road or anything Mailer writes. I mean, true, he's a little clunky with construction and character, but is that all that matters anymore? These pretty little sentences about tedious little people, these words that tickle the eye but leave the heart just sitting there like a commuter who's missed his connection and sits there in the depot just abandoned and forgotten.
So you did mean James Michener, the novelist.
It's just so grand. Oh, I mean, Queen Malama and Kyoki, the lovely Reverend Whipple and Jerusha. Oh, those are people. Those are capital P people. Oh, those islands, the volcanoes, the breezes, the night. Oh!
Tom Waits wrote, "Planes and trains and boats and buses evoke a common attitude of blue. Unless you have a suitcase and a ticket and a passport, and the cargo that they're carrying is you."
So now, I'm in the middle of nowhere, my fingers caught in the car door, with the driver's side window rolled up, the door is locked, the car is running, I'm in excruciating pain, and the car's exhaust is making me sick every so often when the wind shifts.
Are any of the windows open?
Yes, the front passengers, but what good is that going to do me? I can't reach it.
Huh. You smashed the window with your fist. You had to. That's where you got the scars.
Yes, see?
Well, yeah, I noticed them earlier, but I just assumed it was a suicide attempt.
Well, thanks for jumping to that conclusion. And then he threw off the blanket, and I fainted.
An authentic swoon?
Lights out, the vapors. When I woke up, he was gone. So that's sailors for you.
Yeah. Sailors. I'm not a religious person, but I believe I've heard the voice of God.
Go on.
I was living in Baltimore after college. I was working in a bookstore for this horrible old couple. The woman had a box of mints that she kept locked up behind the counter. I mean, honestly. I was alone. Broke as you could get. I had a nervous breakdown, I guess. Do people still have nervous breakdowns? I used to hear about them all the time, but not so much anymore. Now, having said that, how can a mental disorder fall out of use? I mean, do people get to choose the ways in which they go crazy? Like it's a hemline or shoes or something? Well, I was going to have a nervous breakdown, but that's so outré.
Come on.
So I was walking to work one evening. I worked evenings. And my head felt like it was just stuffed with cotton. For months I felt this way. I had tunnel vision. But I remember noticing the dogs barking at me from the houses as I walked by. And I remember thinking that they could sense my wretchedness with their uncanny doggy senses. I was insane with self-pity. I never made it to work. I turned around. I crawled into bed. Pulled the covers over my head. And I remember asking, pleading with God, if this is as good as it's going to be, just please, just take me now. And the scary thing is, I truly believe I almost died. I can sense it. Like this divide opening up in front of me. And if I let myself go, I'd just be sucked into it. Into oblivion. But I got scared. And I pulled myself back. And I went into the living room and lay down on the couch. And I was just laying there. And then I heard this bell, or a tone. It was a single note in any event. And clear as anything. Then I heard this voice. It was very distinct. It was not a man or a woman, but not a thought either. I can't really describe it. It was just a single sentence. You're not that important.
Goodness.
That was it. You're not that important. And I sat up on the couch. And I looked around. And all the cotton in my head, all that wretchedness that had just suffocated me for months was just gone. I mean, I remember thinking how clear everything was, how sharply defined and vivid. And I felt such joy. I mean, my sorrow just fell off me. It just vanished. And then I remember at one point turning on the radio, and it was Doris Day. Que sera, sera. The future's not ours to see. And then I remembered a beautiful line from the book of John. The wind blows where it will. I just cried. It was so beautiful, so perfect.
Wow. Doris Day, James Michener. You're quite the bourgeois.
Yes, I know. Don't tell anyone. Anyway, it didn't last. The feeling, that is, it didn't last. A day or two, and then back to Kansas for Dorothy. I've never forgot it. And I always wondered why I was touched that way. I hope it doesn't mean I was supposed to be a nun or something. Oh, I hope not. I do like the boys.
I'm afraid. A lot. Most of the time. I don't know why. Your turn.
Me too. What's up with that, I wonder? There's my ride. It was nice meeting you.
It was nice meeting you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.